MPs are back in Ottawa, and the king is on the way, all for Parliament's return. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The top news stories
and conversations that matter to you.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's been a while. The last time MPs gathered in the House of Commons, Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada. Chrystia Freeland had stunned political Ottawa and resigned as the Minister of Finance. Liberal MPs were jumping ship, not signing up to run again. And Pierre Poilievre seemed like a sure thing to become the next Prime Minister of Canada. Well, now here we are almost 6 months later, and there's a new Prime Minister. It's Mark Carney, the person who led the Liberal Party to one of the most incredible come-from-behind election wins in Canadian history. And it was that Mark Carney, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who was rallying his Liberal team ahead of this session of Parliament.
I don't have to ask whether this room is ready. I know this room is ready. This is the room. Yes, you are. Because this is the room. This is the room that helped the Liberal Party gain over 300,000 new members in the last 6 months. No, you. This is the room. This is the room. Nope. This is real work. This is real work. This is the room that won our party a strong mandate at the most crucial time in our nation's history. 8.6 million votes. Who's counting? 8.6 million votes. The largest, the most votes in Canadian history. The largest. Yeah. The largest vote share for the Liberal Party in nearly half a century. The largest women's caucus in our history, the largest.
Prime Minister Carney would go on to outline what he sees as the job ahead for his new Liberal government.
Our government has been elected to do nothing less than define a new economic and security relationship with the United States and build, and there's a lot of ands in what I'm about to say, and build the strongest economy that works for everyone. Canadians also want their life to become more affordable. They want their communities safer. We will deliver these mandates with urgency and determination. We are going to get going from minute one.
He went on to explain what legislation will be brought forward in the next few weeks.
We'll introduce immediate legislation to fast-track these projects of national interest and to eliminate all federal barriers to free trade in Canada as our contribution to free trade on Canada Day. We'll work relentlessly to keep Canada safe as a sovereign nation and to keep Canadians safe in their communities. We are going to legislate to toughen the criminal code for those who are threatening the safety of Canadians by making bail harder to get for those charged with stealing cars, with home invasion, with drug smuggling, with human trafficking.
So it's a lot to do. Not much time to do it before MPs call it quits for the summer. That is supposed to happen June 20th. So what kind of opposition can the Liberals expect? Well, it's going to be an opposition that is not led in the House of Commons by Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, who lost his own riding on election night. He will be on the outside looking in, but nevertheless was also rallying his own troops on Parliament Hill, telling Conservative office holders what's on the list of demands from the official opposition.
First, we've got to get the cost of living down. And we're going to be demanding a spring budget that reveals the true deficit, lowers spending, taxes, and inflation. Second, to get homes built by cutting taxes and red tape on construction. Third, to restore economic independence by unleashing our businesses and our resources. Fourth, to bring safety to our streets by locking up dangerous offenders and securing our borders. And fifth, speaking of our borders, We need to get immigration under control after a decade of Liberal incompetence.
Mr. Poilievre did seem to sound as though he was in the mood for some cooperation, saying his party wouldn't stand in the way of anything that brings an end to the Trump tariffs.
We all want a permanent end to tariffs with the U.S., and we will work with the government to help make that happen. I've already told the Prime Minister that we are happy to cooperate any way we can to bring about an end to this unnecessary dispute and restore our sovereign, not just our sovereignty, but also tariff-free access to the most successful international trading arrangement in the world. And we can't help but note that the Prime Minister promised during the election that he would put his elbows up and apply dollar-for-dollar tariffs that would raise tens of billions of dollars. Now, let's be clear. He said that it would raise $20 billion this year alone, and he published that in a platform released after he had quietly eliminated most of those tariffs. So how is he going to make up the money? And why did he put his elbows down when he said they were up? Look, despite the Prime Minister's doublespeak, we will work, as I said, to help him try and get a trade deal to put an end to the tariffs.
And Poilievre outlined what the Conservatives would like to see on fast-tracking big projects like pipelines, for example.
And the industrial carbon tax, the energy caps, the electric vehicle mandates, the No New Pipelines law, the West Coast shipping ban, and more. If the government agrees to these changes, we will move as early as the spring to pass them all. They have our word. Let's remove the obstacles. Let's harvest our resources. Let's make Canada truly independent.
Going to be a busy first few days for the House of Commons. There's the election of the Speaker of the House of Commons just wrapped up. More on that in a moment. That's happening while King Charles and the Queen will tour around Ottawa at some point today, and then tomorrow it will be the speech from the throne to be read in the Senate by the King, and then on Wednesday there will be the first question period. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
It is a busy day in the nation's capital. Parliament getting back into the swing of things for the first time in almost 6 months, and the King and Queen arriving for a 2-day visit and the opening of Parliament. Cormac McSweeney following all the news for us. He's the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for News Radio. Welcome back.
Anytime.
Who is the new Speaker of the House of Commons? That just happened moments ago.
Yeah, it was named Francis Scarpaleggia. He's the new Speaker of the House of Commons. He's a Liberal MP who's been in the House for more than 20 years. He was first elected back in 2004. He's a Montreal area MP. Interesting developments today. Earlier in the day, a pair of Conservatives whose names were on the ballot decided to withdraw their names. So it was just Liberal MPs on the list to potentially become the new Speaker. And Greg Fergus, who was a Speaker in the last Parliament, was not voted to continue on in that role. So Francis Scarpaleggia takes over. So I think the Conservative move was just a move to try and keep the Liberals a little bit more out of reach of that majority. They're only 3 seats shy, and the Speaker only votes if there's a tie vote in the House of Commons, so it takes away another Liberal MP for votes. So I think a strategic move there by the Conservatives. But nonetheless, we have a new Speaker who will have to oversee the House of Commons, and we'll see if there's any more decorum than there was in the last Parliament, which got quite rowdy at times.
Yeah. So that would bring the Liberals down to 168 then, as you say, with the Speaker only voting in the event of a tie, with the Conservatives not contesting for the speakership. Yeah. So he is from, it's basically the southwestern tip of the island of Montreal. Lac Saint-Louis is his riding, which would be the Pointe Claire area, if people are familiar with that part of Montreal. So, okay, that is settled, but not the only news of the day, the election of a speaker. There's news about the New Democrats today. What's going on with the New Democrats?
Yeah, the government's House Leader Steve McKinnon says that they will not be getting a what's called official party status. Now, this was set way back. I had to look it up just recently. 1963 was when they came up with the idea of official party status in order to give extra money and allowances to parties within the House of Commons who weren't in the official opposition role or in the government. So it goes all the way back to 1963. And at that time, they set the mark at 12 seats in the House of Commons. That mark hasn't actually changed. So as the House of Commons has grown, technically the percentage of members of the House that you need to get those official resources from the House of Commons has actually diminished in a way because the number of 12 hasn't changed. The NDP just got 7 seats. And so now the government's saying, it's not happening, and they're not going to get those extra resources, which makes it a lot more difficult for smaller parties to sort of move up and make a difference in the House of Commons. So we'll see how this shakes out for the NDP.
Yeah, so no research budget, no sitting on committees. It's a big blow for the New Democrats. They're all essentially independent members, even though they can have a caucus meeting and whatnot. All right, very quickly, a minute or less. What are the King and Queen up to today?
Well, they should be arriving in about a half an hour to 45 minutes or so. They will be arriving at the Ottawa Reception Centre at the airport. The Prime Minister should be on hand to greet him as the King and Queen, along with other dignitaries and some Canadians who have gathered there. Then they're off to Lansdowne Park, which is just outside the downtown core. And there's going to be a community event there. He's going to drop the puck at a road hockey game. And then they're off to Rideau Hall, where there will be meetings with the Governor General and the Prime Minister, but as well a tree planting ceremony. The big show tomorrow, though, the speech from the throne. There's going to be pomp and circumstance, horse-drawn carriage down Wellington Street towards the Senate, a full military honors with an inspection, a 21-gun salute. And this is King Charles' first visit to Canada since taking the throne. It's only the third time we've had a sitting monarch read the speech from the throne. It was Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth, who did those 2 other speeches. It's the first time we'll have a king doing it. So an historic moment for Canada. And of course, the symbolism behind all of that as well is flexing our independence, our sovereignty amid those sovereignty 51st state threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. So that will be the underlying message to the government's plan that will be read out by the king tomorrow in the Senate.
All right. Thank you so much, Cormac McSweeney. Great to hear from you.
Anytime.
Our Parliamentary Bureau Chief for News Radio, Cormac McSweeney, following all the happenings in political Ottawa and on Parliament Hill today. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
The Newsday Panel.
Yes, it is time for our Newsday Panel with Susan Smith, principal at Blue Sky Strategy Group. Welcome back, Sue. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, Rob. Nice to be here.
And Alex Creston is vice president at Crestview Strategy. And welcome back to you, Alex.
Thanks for having me back.
Are you in the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada today, Alex?
I am.
And how are things?
Things are beautiful and sunny in the center of the universe.
Good. Okay. Now, tomorrow, big day tomorrow, we have the King. King Charles III is arriving in about 45 minutes from now in Ottawa, and tomorrow we'll open Parliament with the speech from the throne. Why do you think Mark Carney invited King Charles III to do this, Sue?
Well, there's a whole host of reasons, I think, but we can guess probably what the biggest one is. But starting with, it's a new government with a new prime minister and a new mandate, and this will only be the third time a monarch has opened Parliament. The Queen did it twice, most recently in 1977. I'm sure your listeners can figure out how old they were then, if at all. So it was a long, long time ago. It's part of Canada's tradition and history, and it's part of who we are as sovereign Canadians. And I think it's a reflection of the relationship that Carney has with Buckingham Palace, actually. I think his time as governor, he probably had met Charles, who's now the king, more than once. But I do think the biggest message, unofficially, is to Trump, as in, hands off Canada. We have our history. We are a sovereign country. And while we are independent, we're part of the Commonwealth, and with the Commonwealth comes a king. And Mr. Trump, no matter how much you would like to be king, and perhaps how much you may like to be king of Canada, it ain't going to happen. This is who we are, and this is how we do things here. So I think that's the biggest message.
Okay. What do you think, Alex?
Well, I think
why did Carney do that?
I think there's a couple of different things for the king, actually. So why would the king want to do this?
Okay.
I think that, the prime minister probably took good advantage of the king wanting to come and visit Canada and timed it well to fit with the speech from the throne. But the king is sort of overdue for a trip to Canada, and he has not done a lot of traveling. As we all know, he has been sick. So this is something that's
True enough.
I think important for him to make sure that he's doing a couple of things. And one of them is really shoring up support for the Commonwealth and support for funding where the actual UK government has been cutting back funding for some of the programs that are very important at the Commonwealth. And he's looking for new partners on that. And also with him in failing health, God forbid, he may not have many opportunities to do this kind of travel. So I'd say that's an important piece for him.
I think the king, though,
Sure.
The interesting thing when Prime Minister Carney went over when he was very first elected and right before the election, he met with King Charles, and things like the king was wearing his Order of Canada pin. The king has worn red ties at symbolic moments. The king has worn Canadian medals. He has the right as Commander-in-Chief to wear Canadian medals. So I think this is much less about Charles and his agenda and much more about Canada's agenda and how Charles sees he can play an important role. I mean, monarchs are not supposed to be political. They are not overtly political, but there is the symbolism in history that goes with the monarchy. That being said,
nice segue, Sue. What do you think in the speech from the throne, which is not written by Buckingham Palace, although you would certainly think they would want to vet it, but what do you think the king would say and not say? There's been some speculation, for example, that Downing Street in the UK might be nervous that he might get too political or upset the apple cart between UK-US relations, for example. What do you say to that?
I don't think the king will stick his feet into that. I suspect the speech has gone back and forth over the pond a couple times, not so much for approval, but just as it's being shaped here in Canada. I understand it's not going to be super long, about 20 minutes or so. What I do think the king will say, and these are words that the prime minister has given the king to say. That's what's very important. These are not the king's own words. These are the prime minister's words for the tone and tenor and mandate and vision for the government. So I think he'll refer to things that he's referred to in the campaign, which is Canada being founded on 3 founding peoples, Indigenous, French, and English. That'll be the first time I think we hear the king talking about something like that. That'll be important words out of the king's mouth. I think he'll be talking about the 7 things that Mr. Carney referred to in the mandate letter that he released last week. And he'll talk broad strokes about housing affordability and Canadian security and sovereignty and trade, both domestically and internationally, and building new projects.
Fast-tracking projects, making communities safer, investing in the military, making life more affordable, these sorts of things. The
final thing I think we'll hear a message from the king is about the importance of Parliament and the institution of Parliament as a democratic institution, and that it shouldn't be a place for partisan tomfoolery. It is a place to govern by the people and for the people. And I suspect there'll be a message like that from the king as well.
All right. Interesting. What do you expect to hear from the king in the speech, and maybe not what he won't say, Alex?
Yeah, I think the king will stay away from anything that is sort of the moment, anything that seems to be too responsive to the politics of the day, and stick more to the sort of eternal truths and the things that have always been true and will always be true about Canada, and talking about I think not just the Canada's priorities, but Canada's heritage. And Susan did mention, the sort of the Indigenous heritage, and I think that that's something that will be very important for Indigenous communities here to hear from, because they do tend to see sort of maybe a sort of counterintuitive, but a strong relationship with the Crown, maybe even more so than the sort of the the democratic state of Canada.
With our Newsday panelists today, Susan Smith, principal at Blue Sky Strategy Group, and Alex Creston, vice president at Crestview Strategy. So one of the stories that has developed early on this political day is that the New Democrats will be denied by the new Liberal government official party status after winning just 7 seats in the most recent federal election. The threshold is 12, and there had been some back and forth, I gather. Please take it easy on us and give us official party status. And the answer is no. Now, Don Davies is the interim leader of the New Democrats right now because Mr. Singh is gone, did not win his riding on election night, Jagmeet Singh. He was asked about not having official party status and what it's going to mean for the New Democrats in this session of Parliament. This is Don Davies.
I'd like to ask you, how are you going to accomplish anything in this Parliament when you don't have official party status?
Well, we have 7 votes in a minority Parliament, which reflects
committees, question period, like what? You won't be able to do much, really?
Yeah. Well, again, in a minority Parliament where the minority government has 169 seats and needs 3 for a majority, any party that has 7 seats obviously has a balance of power. And so I think that we're going to be able to play a profoundly important role this Parliament. You know, we're going to be a traditional opposition party. We're going to support policies that New Democrats believe in and will oppose those that don't. And I think that there's, as in every minority Parliament, a real opportunity for us to push and promote progressive policies and hold this government to account in a way that you can't do in a majority Parliament.
So again, Don Davies, the interim leader of the New Democrats in the House of Commons. Susan, why do you think the Liberals wouldn't give the New Democrats official party status?
Because 7 does not equal 12, and that is the parliamentary precedent. I mean, that's pretty easy math.
Right.
They needed 12 seats. They didn't have 12 seats. They are far off 12 seats. So the parliamentary precedent is that you have to have 12 seats to be official party status. And I mean, it's not complicated. I think it was a bit of wishful thinking on the part of the NDP that they would be granted status when they were so far short. I think it might have been a more complicated conversation if they had 11 seats, not 7. So it is. I mean, Mr. Davies, they are 7 votes. They are the balance of power. The Liberal government, all parties will be talking to all parties as measures move forward. But the NDP have to get their own house in order. And their leader lists, from an official perspective, they have an interim, and they have to rebuild themselves. And I think that's what they're going to be spending their time doing. And they'll participate as they can in debate. But you have to have the number of seats, and they don't have it.
Okay. What do you think about that, Alex?
Yeah, look, I think, like Susan said, it's 7 people isn't a party. If you think back to your days, we're all getting a little older, maybe not throwing as many parties, but if only 7 people showed up, you wouldn't really call that a party. So, not really an official party by the. Let me tell you,
I could throw a hell of a party with 7 people. You'd have a great time.
These days, that's actually pretty decent. But no, they'll hold they will be a significant factor just by having the balance of power. But these are rules, and maybe they tried to negotiate something, and maybe they didn't put enough in the window to be able to get to be given that special privilege of having the official party status. But I think it's kind of these things always come up. Someone doesn't get official party status, and we all think, oh, will they be generous and give it to them? Well, why would they? Unless they gave them something, I don't see why the government would opt to give them that special privilege.
I mean, Sue, whether it was 170 seats, now it's down to 168, I guess, with the election of the speaker who only votes in when it's a tie. I mean, this isn't a fragile minority government for the Liberals by any measure. I mean, the Bloc Québécois has already signaled it's in no mood for an election anyway, and it expects to support the government on most things for the next year. So is Mr. Davies maybe overstating how much power these New Democrats actually have? What do you think?
Well, I use the term wishful thinking. I think perhaps
Wishful thinking.
that is in
Okay.
fact
Yeah.
the case.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It isn't a fragile government at the moment. I think we have a very stable government, at least for the next 2 years. Canadians are in no rush to go back to an election, and they will punish the people who push for that kind of thing. And they've also want to see good behavior in Parliament. So the Liberals just need to find, you're right, and congratulations to Francis Scarpaleggia. I don't know if we're going to talk about the new speaker, but the Liberals have 169 seats, but yes, the speaker does not vote, so 168. So the Liberals just have to find 4 votes, sorry. And I think they'll be able to do it, whether it's the NDP or the Bloc or Elizabeth May. Yeah. They'll be able to find things to make this Parliament function. And that is what Canadians voted for, is a functioning Parliament.
Yeah, they can usually count on Elizabeth May. That's true. All right, we'll be right back. Alex, you'll get to go first, but Dave will have to wait until we come back. With our Newsday panelists today, Susan Smith from Blue Sky Strategy Group, and from Crestview Strategy, Alex Creston. I do want to talk a little bit. I was quite surprised because I thought the Liberals would say, well, we don't want to get caught in the same kind of scenario in case we have a very unpopular leader and we can't get rid of that person. We have the powers by way of the Reform Act to oust a leader if we want to oust a leader, if it ever came to that, and they're not going to do it. Alex, what do you think about the Liberal caucus not using the Reform Act to give themselves the power to oust a leader, especially after the Trudeau experience?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this. I think the Liberal Party is really the party of the status quo. They tend to be slower to adopt these kinds of measures sort of internally, even, hanging on to delegated conventions longer than any other party, selecting leaders, that way. And then the idea, that when they have had this sort of big turnaround with a leader who's still in the middle of quite a positive honeymoon, the idea that they would, do something that would potentially tarnish that or call into question that leader's authority. I'd be surprised if I ever saw the Liberal Party adopt the Reform Act. It just does not seem like a Liberal Party thing to do, unless they're back in third party and they're trying to do things. But that's when they adopted different kinds of leadership elections as well. When things are going well, you stick with the rules that got you there.
Okay. Sue, what do you think about that development?
Well, Mark Carney won the election. Mark Carney won his seat, and Mark Carney won the Liberal leadership with 86% of the vote of the party. And so I think that's a pretty strong mandate. And I think caucus obviously has confidence in the leader, but caucus also has confidence in the Liberal Party constitution, which enables members of the party or people to vote for the leader as they've just gone through. So I think that's what the MPs had a vigorous debate about it. It was an open debate, if you go by media reports, and they decided to continue to show their confidence in the leader and their confidence in the constitution of the Liberal Party that allows more than just a 20% of caucus to trigger a leadership review. So I think that's the way they've gone. The Reform Act is Michael Chong's bill. It's a conservative piece of legislation. If I was Mr. Poilievre, I'd be a little bit nervous about it this time around. I mean, he lost his seat, he lost the election. All he needs is 20% of the caucus to say yes, sir. Not so sure we want to keep you. Right. So he's going to have some significant caucus management in the next little while.
Sure thing. And speaking of which, Pierre Poilievre, what do you think the Commons will be like without him around, without him asking the questions in question period? And so you've hinted at this a few times, Sue. So
where do I start? I think we'll see a more I hope for a more adult tone in the House of Commons. We've seen Carney in debates and press conferences, and he's more measured with an adult tone. Mr. Poilievre's signature was kind of slogans and snark. And it's always the tone from the top that sets the tone for the rest of caucus. He still remains at the top, though, Mr. Scheer's in the House of Commons. I hope it's less slogany. I hope it's less snarky. Canadians sent a message to all parliamentarians that they want Parliament to work. And they don't want filibustering and nonsense. They want legislation to be debated fulsomely and passed. So I hope we see good behavior on all sides. And I think the temporary absence of Mr. Poilievre will help that a little bit.
Okay. Alex, what do you think?
I think
the House without Pierre.
The House without Pierre. So I think, we're yet to see, how Mark Carney really does handle this kind of scrutiny that you get in question period, albeit a bit of theater. He does kind of bristle at when people, get under his skin. And but I do imagine that the Parliament will continue to function the way Parliament has functioned. Yeah. And I don't think any one individual is part of that. I think what it does do is actually, in an interesting way, give Poilievre more of a free hand to go and do the kind of fence mending and shoring up of his support, because he's not tied to the legislature. He's not tied to Parliament and being stuck in Ottawa.
Okay.
Because he lost his job. He doesn't.
Gotta go. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It is 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today's topic, your brand new government. And here's the big question for you today. Think about it and then offer an opinion at 1-833-668-2577. What can the new government in Ottawa do to make your life better? What can the new government in Ottawa do to make your life better? Look, this is the big news story. Today, Parliament is back. A lot has changed in the last 6 months or so. A lot is still the same. It's still a Liberal government, but it's led by a new prime minister in Mark Carney. And he has some new cabinet ministers, but there are certainly still a lot of familiar faces, some of them in the same roles as they were when Prime Minister Trudeau was calling the shots, but some of them are in new roles as well. Pierre Poilievre is not the prime minister. He's not even going to be in the House of Commons. Trump is still in the White House. There are still tariffs in place on many Canadian exports. And we have been told by economists that there is a good chance that the Canadian economy could fall into a recession in the coming months. This new government has promised to do many things. It has promised to transform the Canadian economy. It has promised to seek out new economic opportunities and new reliable trading partners other than the United States. It has promised to move fast on big nation-building projects. It has promised to make your life more affordable. It has promised to make your life more affordable. For example, it has promised to pass a middle-class tax cut. It has set the carbon tax to zero. It has promised to make housing more affordable and double the pace of home construction. It has promised to make communities safer. It has promised to make changes to the criminal code. It has promised to make big investments into the Canadian Armed Forces. It has promised many things. It has made a lot of promises. We want to know today, what is it? What can be done? What can this new government do to make your life better? What are some of the things this government should be considering? What should it be thinking about as it tries to improve lives for Canadians? What ideas do you have? Because we would certainly love to hear them. Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Is there anything that this new government can do to make your life better, to make your life more affordable, to make housing more affordable, rental housing, mortgages, to make your community safer, to help you get a job, to help you get a better job? We are open to hearing any and all ideas today. We want to kind of bring this down to the neighborhood level, down to the main street, the household level. Because the next couple of days are all about parliamentary traditions and ceremony and our historic ties to the crown. We have elected a Speaker of the House of Commons. They have now dragged that person to the chair. The King is getting to arrive in Ottawa. Plane should land in 5 minutes from now. He will be in the Senate tomorrow on the throne, reading the speech from the throne and outlining the government's priorities and apparently sending a message to Donald Trump that it's hands off Canada, elbows up Canada. And then these 343 MPs have to get to work, or more specifically, the 169 Liberal MPs, or even more specifically, the 38 cabinet ministers, or even perhaps even more accurately, the Prime Minister and the people working in his office have to get to work on putting in place policies that will actually deliver the kind of results that they have promised to deliver for Canadians. And the Prime Minister has laid out a number of priorities and made a lot of promises on the situation with the United States, on the Canadian economy, on the cost of living and housing and crime. So what actions do you think this government should take, could take, that would have a real, a meaningful, a positive and direct impact on your life and on your family? If you have an idea, any idea at all, we are open to hearing that idea. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you have never called before, just mention that to us and we will make your call a priority. It's Monday. It's time for another week of your opinions and your phone calls. It's time for another week of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Your call's coming up next. All the phone lines are available right now. The wait won't be too long at all. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Canada's new government is our topic of the day. We are asking, what can the new government in Ottawa do to make your life better? What actions do you think this government could take that would have a meaningful, positive, and direct impact on your life? 1-833-668-2577. First-time caller is Christina in Halifax. Hello, Christina.
Hi.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. I'm on the radio, I guess. Thank you for opportunity. I think the government should be looking into it. Remove a little bit more monopoly in a lot of areas because we in Canada it's a lot of monopolized different industries, and it doesn't allow open market and invest maybe in innovations and a lot of different technology because we all know that North America in some ways a little bit behind with renewable energy. With a lot of technologies that are already used in a lot of all over the world, and I think that would create a lot of new. So sorry about that. A lot of new opening, new plants, new jobs, because we all know that even reduce the garbage in terms of generate the energy from plants that produce. Burning garbage into clean energy.
Oh yes.
So there's a lot of ways that government can look into to improve life of Canadians by implementing new technology, building more different things.
Maybe making investments in things like artificial intelligence, leveraging artificial intelligence, for example, seems to be the next big thing. AI.
AI, it's already used in a lot of different industries, but I think AI can be harnessed AI in the right direction.
Okay. When you talk about these monopolist type industries, what industries are you talking about?
I'm talking about sometimes airlines,
airlines. Okay.
Power, utilities. And,
utilities. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of way for improvement to add a little bit more competition on the market, because market drives, when we have competition, we have better prices, right?
Sure.
And that will definitely help with the cost of living. When you have healthy competition on the market, it will bring the quality higher and give consumers more choices to select. So company will fight for consumers instead of just people will have to go what we have available.
Very interesting. Okay, Christina, very good call. Thank you. Really interesting. On the other side of the bridge in Dartmouth, John, you're up next. John, hi there.
How are you doing?
I'm good,
just
John.
A quick comment on the previous caller there. Yes, about airlines, just as someone that's traveled several times over to Asia, open the door for Cathay Pacific to come in, because you get on a Cathay Pacific flight over there that's 45 minutes, and you get a breakfast sandwich, cup of tea, and a juice, and you're greeted at the door with a bottle of water. You don't have a problem with taking your bag on board. Over here, it's entirely different because we don't have enough competition, but that's not my reason of my call.
Okay.
We're faced with what's going on with the king of the U.S., Mr. Trump. And I supported Donald Trump as a Canadian. I supported him up until the fiasco involving Ukraine. Not that I'm a strong supporter of the Ukrainian leader, but when the people of Ukraine were sitting on the edges of their seats because their leader was in Washington to try to find a solution for those mothers that lost sons, for those wives that lost husbands, for those people that are coming home wounded with one leg or one arm gone, how he behaved with his vice president turned me off with him. I had nothing good to say about him. Now, in relation to that in Canada, Donald Trump, as I say, king, I use to that because now he's pointing the finger to all different countries and saying, this is the way it's going to be. We're back and we're going to be number one. And either you're going to do this or do that, or we're going to put high tariffs on it. So let's find a solution for that. And I believe the solution is for this new government to declare that we're in a kind of state of an emergency, and it's for national security. I wouldn't say state of emergency, but national security. Declare that we're going to open up in Canada an energy corridor from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Now, there is the province of Quebec blocked Newfoundland Hydro from sending power to the U.S. through their electrical grid.
That's right.
Through their grid or their corridor. And, then what Newfoundland had to do was put a subsea cable over to Nova Scotia, across the land of Nova Scotia, then subsea down into Maine. That's crazy. So what we need to do is put that energy corridor, direct that power into provinces like New Brunswick. Nova Scotia, we're on the threshold of spending several $100 million to do offshore wind projects. If we could use all the power that's coming out of Muskrat Falls, put that money to use somewhere else in Nova Scotia. Bring back the old Nova Scotia program where they helped the people to get homes for the first time, which was a wonderful program. I built a house through that program. My two sons, my son and my daughter, built a house through that program. And they, it's just that the government makes pieces of land more affordable for somebody for their first home. Now, the idea of the energy corridor is that if we were to say to take all, the President of the United States has said on 4 occasions, and I've got them all documented, that he said we don't need Canada's energy. We don't need it at all. So let's take all the power that's being supplied by Quebec and use it in Canada. And let's take the power that's being sold to the United States from Ontario and use it in Canada. Take all of our natural resources like gas and oil, like our previous Prime Minister said. I don't see a viable picture for putting LNG export.
Yeah, no business case. Yeah.
No business case. I mean, that's crazy. So if we were to have a national energy corridor, we would then satisfy what's coming out of the West. They feel that they're not part of the country. I believe a national energy corridor would bring the country together and try to do it in a way that all the provinces benefit from it.
Right. And as you say, not just getting Western oil and gas further east, but also getting abundant hydroelectricity power from Newfoundland and Labrador further west, right?
Absolutely.
Isn't that such a great idea? Such a great idea.
It's so easy. And here's the benefit of it. We do that. Then we say to Trump, now you take all the energy, which you said you didn't want, because he'll get us back up and say, I'm going to put a 50% tariff on you because you're doing that. He said he didn't need it.
Right.
So then if you took the energy export out of the equation that we ship to the United States, then they'd be the ones that are behind, because that's the bulk of our exports is our energy.
All right. Thank you, John. Very good. Yeah, really interesting. Keep those calls coming, everyone. 1-833-668-2577. The new political week is starting to take shape now, with Parliament actually sitting for a while today for the first time in more than 6 months to elect a speaker, and then the king will read the speech from the throne, and it will be a short session, about 25 days or so. But there's a new government in place. What can it do to make your life better? To Rob in Cambridge. Hello, Rob. Hi, Rob.
How are you, Rob? My brother from another mother?
Yes, sir.
Well, here's the irony. But the one thing they could do is step down. That would help me a lot, because I can't live with having a liar as a prime minister. I don't know if anybody knows this, Rob, but on April the 16th, United States surtax remission order was put through, and it was rescinding all retaliatory tariffs. Now, ready for this? He hopped on, he had the balls to hop on and go on national television in the debate and say, elbows up, I'm the guy with the plan. I'm going to take you through this, and we must fight them at all costs. Now, don't fall over laughing, Rob. On May the 6th, he had a meeting with Trump. On May the 7th, the dropping of all tariffs was when it went into effect. And you know what? I don't know. We were duped. We were lied to. We were lied to numbers of times. But let's face it, this guy has no plan. So the long story short is, first thing he could do maybe to help Canada is A, step down, B, possibly put AI in charge of everything instead of himself, because maybe AI is less of a liar.
All right. Okay. You're not a fan, and there's room for improvement. Fair enough, Rob. Fair enough. I mean, I know with this whole topic of retaliatory tariffs, I mean, there is some dispute about whether all of these retaliatory tariffs are still on the books or off the books, because there are media organizations who have interviewed companies who are saying, well, we're bringing in and we're paying retaliatory tariffs, and that the retaliatory tariffs are very much in existence. But we have some lines available, 1, 2, 3 of them. So the wait won't be too long. 1-833-668-2577 to Glenn in Halifax. Hello, Glenn. Hi, Glenn.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Glenn. Good to hear from you today. You're on the air. What's your opinion?
My opinion is not. I haven't really got anything really great to say. Is that I think we got the same people that are running the country as we had before when Trudeau was there.
Okay.
And when the prime minister finally sees what the budget, he's going to come in with a new budget, and when he sees what the expenses are that the former Liberal Party have created, I can't see him really doing very much. But the only thing I could say is that what he could do is help bring the prices of food back down where they should be. I mean, they always said when the price of food went up, it was because of the gasoline high prices. Well, the price of the barrel of oil is down into the $61 a barrel. And so why is the food now not coming back down? Because the people that are delivering the groceries now from everywhere, they're not paying the high price of fuel like they were before. So I just don't understand it. But you know as well as I do that once the price goes up on something, it's unlikely that they ever want to bring it back down again. You're almost stuck with it then. But as far as the new government goes, you're going to see an awful lot of increases in a lot of things. As far as our household stuff goes, because when he brings that new budget in and he tells the truth and he sees the billions of dollars that even $1 trillion I've heard that we could be in deficit. Okay,
we got to wrap it up there. You're predicting higher prices for Canadians.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now. Hello. 1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about the new government in Canada and what that new government in Ottawa can do to make your life better. What actions do you think this government could take, should take, that would have a meaningful, positive, and direct impact on your life? 1-833-668-2577. 1, 2, 3 lines available there. Love to hear from first-time callers. Just tell us that you're a first-time caller, and we'll make your call a priority tonight. Let's go to Rick, is in Halifax today. Hello, Rick.
Yeah, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Rick. Thanks. What's your opinion here?
I guess, well, I'd like to see some honesty in the government for once and for all, because, Trump down in the States is just doing what his people asked him to do, and it's called protectionism. And now we have this whole big spew, and I listened to it earlier on your radio station about buy Canadian, do this, do that. That's no better than what Trump's doing. That's called protectionism. Okay, he's protecting his own country, and so is Carney. God love his soul, although he does it in a different way. I don't think he tells the truth, and I don't think, liberals could tell the truth if their life depended upon it. But that's another story. And I'm tired of liberals being elected into this country and having hidden agendas. And I'm going to give you 2 prime examples. One is the gun law. They were never elected with a mandate to take the guns from people. And 2, they were never elected with a mandate to carbon tax people.
Okay. Well, Mr. Carney was pretty upfront right out of the gate that he was going to accelerate that gun buyback program. He did it. He set aside a whole day on the campaign. He introduced one of the big gun control
Mr. Trudeau,
advocates in the country. Right? Yes, it does.
Mr. Trudeau did not give a mandate to buy back the gun. That was not part of his election promise, and he did that as a hidden agenda.
Okay. And you would like this government to put a stop to it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That was never part.
Oh, I think we've lost him. Have we lost him there? Are you there? Yeah, Rick has dropped out. Look, I was listening to Prime Minister Carney's speech to the party faithful, to his MPs. And, political leaders do this. They bring the troops together, all the MPs. Okay, Parliament is getting back in action. Let's do kind of a cheerleading session, a rah-rah session. These are the challenges facing Canadians, and Canadians have elected us to help solve them, and this is what we're going to do. And he outlined his priorities. We have to come to a new agreement with the United States. We have to come to an agreement on trade. We have to come to an agreement on security. I don't know where this Golden Dome thing is going to happen. Maybe we're part of it. But one of the big ones was we have to make life more affordable for Canadians. We have to bring down the cost of living for Canadians. Too many Canadians are feeling the financial pressures of life. So we have to do something about that. We have to make housing more affordable, he said. We have to fast track big nation building projects, he said. Now everyone is curious. Well, what do you have in mind, Prime Minister Carney, when you say we have to fast track big nation building projects? Just what do you have in mind? Does that include a pipeline, for example, or maybe 2 pipelines, one west, one east, maybe 3, one west, one east, one to the north? Canadians, he said, are worried about community safety. A liberal said that. Canadians are worried about community safety, have to crack down on crime, have to make amendments to the criminal code, have to make communities safer. And in French, he didn't really say it with much emphasis in English, but in French, he certainly insisted that the government is going to make big investments in the Canadian Armed Forces. Where's that money coming from? Now, keep in mind, this is going to be a very abbreviated session of Parliament. Right now, the parliamentary calendar says MPs are supposed to break for the summer on June 20th and all head back to their ridings. Well, June 20th is only 25 days from today, and it's the summer break. They're going to have the big do tomorrow with the throne speech and the king reading the throne speech. Then parliamentary business resumes on Wednesday. the big goal, I think, for the government is going to be to pass its tax cut promise, the so-called middle-class tax cut, which is a very modest tax cut. It's a cut to the lowest marginal tax bracket of 1%, from 15 down to 14. The government says you'll benefit from that if you're, one of the 22 million Canadians that will benefit from that, and that it could save the typical Canadian up to $840 a year. Up to. You always have to pay attention to the language when it comes to these tax cut promises. Could and up to. But that is kind of the big shiny item that they're putting in the window for the next 25 days is middle class tax cuts. And then they're going to come to you and say, we cut taxes and now your life is more affordable. And then another thing that they want to get done, because the Prime Minister is on this self-imposed deadline of Canada Day, July 1st, removing whatever internal trade and regulatory barriers that exist at the federal level of government that are hampering interprovincial trade. Because right now, for the most part, because of the Trump administration and tariffs, you have had provinces striking deals with other provinces. Ontario and Manitoba signing a deal. Ontario signs a deal with New Brunswick. Ontario signs a deal with Nova Scotia. But there are all kinds of rules and regulations about interprovincial trade, on labor mobility, on weights and measures, federal barriers on pan-Canadian trade that the Prime Minister has said are going to be gone by Canada Day. I will be curious to see how far they actually get on that. But this session of the House is going to be over before you know it. As I say, it's going to be June 20th. And it's not unusual that they could even break a few days earlier than that and start summer vacation earlier than that. What we want to know is, what can it do? Can it even do anything? What can it do to make your life better? Let's go to Wendell is up next in Halifax today. Lots of calls from Halifax today.
Hi, Rob.
Hi,
how are you doing?
Wendell. I'm good, Wendell. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good. The answer to your question is Carney and his band of WEF-controlled Marxists are going to do nothing to make the lives better for any Canadian. And if anybody read any of his book called Values, he thinks that Western society is rotten. That's a direct quote. And he's going to take away gas-powered cars, and he's going to make certain properties unrentable. He says there will be temporary pain. Well, I've reinserted the word permanent there, pain, and I could go on and on and on. But you've just got a recycled cabinet from the Trudeau area, and anybody that thinks, you can do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, we all know the definition of that, and it's called insanity.
Okay. So again, you're sounding pretty hopeless there, that lives are going to improve even if there's a new government.
Unfortunately, I do my research, Rob, and I do feel hopeless. I mean, we've had 10 years of pain and nothing but steel boot and authoritarian crap from Trudeau. And we've got the same crew. So I wish I could sound more positive, but
you don't think you don't think there's any policies that this government could enact that would lower the cost of living, that would make housing more affordable?
Or do that, but the government never lies to you, do they, Rob?
Well, I don't trust really any government of any stripe with 100% of what it says. Are you saying there's no policy that they could enact that would make life more affordable, would lower prices at the grocery store, for example, or make housing more affordable, or make communities safer, or build big national projects?
Well, see, the key word there, Rob, is could enact. There's lots that they could enact.
Okay, those are the ideas I'm looking for.
And that's the crux of it. And I certainly don't think that they're going to enact anything that's going to make the lives of Canadians better. And if they think that they're going to win any kind of of trade war or tariff war with Trump. I mean, I just got back from an extended stay in the U.S., and I probably know more about U.S. politics than a lot of Americans do. And, I mean, that's a fight you're never going to win, not even close.
Okay, popular opinion. Wendell, thank you for your call in Halifax today. I'm Rob Snow. Be right back. It's Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking about this new government in Ottawa and what it can do to make your life better. I mean, appreciably better, measurably better. What action can this government take that would have meaningful, positive, and direct impacts on your life? I'm not encouraged by the response so far, I have to say. 1-833-668-2577. Let's get right to the phones. Eric in Halifax. Thank you for calling. Eric, go ahead.
How you doing there,
I'm
Rob?
good, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
I would like to see him make good on some of the promises that he's made, and also make life affordable for all Canadians, just not the chosen few. And last but not least, I think that Trump will give in eventually. So what Carney can do is clean up his own backyard, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, what do you mean clean up his own backyard? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's right. Canada's almost out of the end of the Depression, so he's got to start thinking about Canadians and not worrying about what's going on in the rest of the world.
Okay. Like a Canada first approach kind of thing.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly how. That's the best way to sum it up, because you can't worry what's going on in the rest of the world. If you can't take care of yourself, then nobody else is going to take care of you.
Okay, I got you. Thank you, Eric. Yep, good to hear from you. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. Okay? And once the House breaks on the 20th of June, it's actually remarkable. When you look through the calendar, how little work MPs have actually done legislating. So far this year, up until today, none, right? And then it's going to be a quick session, 25 days, maybe pass a middle-class tax cut, do something on interprovincial trade, and then they're off for the summer. I mean, an MP, are they ever really off? They're back in their constituencies. They're going to doing the barbecue tour, all of this kind of stuff. But they're not in the House. June 20th, it's all said and done. And then the House isn't supposed to be back until just a couple of weeks after Labor Day on the 15th of September. Labor Day is September 1st this year. Then the House will be back for 2 weeks in September, 3.5 weeks in October, 3 weeks in November, and maybe, if we're lucky, 2 weeks in December. Like 14 weeks in all for the entirety of 2025. Because everything was upended when Trudeau announced he was resigning and Parliament was prorogued, leadership race, and Carney went off to Europe after he won the leadership race. We had the election, and like nothing has happened legislatively since December 17th, 160 days ago. I mean, we're getting our money's worth, I guess. I don't know. But now we have this new government. It's in place in Ottawa. It says it wants to make your life better. What could it do? Brian in Halifax today. Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Hello, Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Yes,
hey,
hello, Brian. Good, Brian. Thank you.
I think there's all kinds of things that Carney can and will do. I mean, you're talking about the interprovincial trade barrier. That's like one major thing, especially for us out here in Atlantic Canada.
Okay.
That's fantastic. I mean, hey, middle-class tax cut, who doesn't like that? Hopefully there will be some, as we can see from the States, when you make a bunch of tax cuts, you're cutting the spending, the amount of money you have to spend on other things. So it's like, well, where are you going to get that from? But, man, I got to say, there was one caller a while ago, Wendell, from my city, and I mean, calling Carney a Marxist, I mean, that might be about the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion, sir. We don't like to pick on other callers around here. I'll let you have your say. Wendell can have his say, and everybody else can have their say right after the news and another hour of Talkback on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
So we decided to ask, because we wanted to talk about this new government that's in place in Ottawa now and what the new government in Ottawa can do to make your life better. Very curious response in that there's not been much response, which leads me to believe people have doubts that the new government in Ottawa will be able to make their lives better at all. We have been asking, what actions do you think the government could take that would have meaningful, positive, direct impact on your life? Not a single call from the West today. Not a single call from Calgary. Why would that be? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I mean, to our listeners in Calgary who are usually calling and the phone is ringing off the hook. What doubts do you have about this Liberal government in Ottawa? You didn't send many Liberals to Ottawa. In Alberta, one, right? One, two, I think one, maybe. Grand total, maybe two. Oh, yeah, two in all of Alberta, one in Saskatchewan, right? For the entire prairies. That was it. Why do you have such lingering doubts about the ability of this new government in Ottawa to deliver for you and to make your life better? Maybe we should reframe the question, turn it around. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. We have every single phone line is available right now. Let's go to Dave in High River. Dave. Hello, Dave.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah,
Good
Dave.
topic.
First call from Alberta today, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's
takes
a good
until
one.
the second hour today. My gosh.
Yeah. Two things.
Okay.
Number one, reduce national debt.
Reduce the national debt. Okay.
Get our debt under control and start focusing on debt control, unnecessary, flagrant spending.
Yes. Okay.
Number two, fix the equalization program imbalances. Alberta has been contributing huge billions and teens of billions of dollars, unlike many other provinces, some only extracting teens of billions of dollars.
Right.
So it's time we fix the equalization payments. We get the country working and we bring our debt under control.
Okay, but for you, it very much has to do with money and how the government is spending money and where the government's money is going. And you'd like to see more regional fairness in that, right?
When we have the capital, we can fund our fantasies.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dave. Yeah. Good to hear from, somebody west of Nova Scotia today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Kim is called from Calgary. Hello, Kim.
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay, Kim. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Good.
What's your opinion here?
Are you surprised that nobody's speaking? The fact is, when Mr. Carney came into power, there was afterwards all this talk of separation and everything. He hasn't publicly addressed that at all. Not reached out to any leaders in Alberta or Saskatchewan, given people any assurance at all that he wants to work with the other provinces. No sense of that he wants to work together as a country. It's all about the East. And so that's why people are fed up over here.
I mean, shortly after the election, just so we're clear, shortly after the election, he spoke with Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith said she was even encouraged, right? And then she said, but here's what I want to see from the new government in Ottawa. Just last week, his new energy minister, Tim Hodgson, was in Calgary talking about how he wanted to reset the Canada-Alberta relationship, spoke positively about energy projects. There's someone who has history in Alberta. We've sat on the chair of the board of an oil sands company, for crying out loud. So, and there's going to be a First Ministers meeting. I think that's next week in Saskatoon. So he hasn't completely ignored the West yet, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, but that's all talk. Let's see some action, right?
It's all talk. Okay, so what does action look like for you? What's action look like for you?
Action looks like getting rid of C-69, first of all.
Okay.
Getting rid of C-69 so we can actually, this country can get its beat back. Let's get the oil and gas moving so we can actually be independent of the United States.
Okay.
Let's do something, right?
Do something.
Yeah, there needs to be action taken and not just talk. I mean, there's lots of talk's been happening for the last 8-9 years. No action, right?
Right.
So
okay.
That's what people on the West need to see.
Yeah.
They need some.
And at the top of the list should be some kind of movement on repealing C-69. I can't understand why they're so hesitant to do anything on that. Because that's not just an Alberta thing. They have ready-made excuses for that. The big one being that it's been found to be unconstitutional. And Doug Ford, who seems to get along so well with Mark Carney in Ontario, he wants to get rid of C-69 as well because he wants to move ahead with all kinds of other projects, Ring of Fire. He wants, to do a tunnel under the Highway 401. He wants to twin other highways, and C-69 gets in the way of that kind of stuff too.
Exactly. We're the laughing stock of the whole world because of that C-69. Everybody's hands are tied, right? So, as a leader, he's got to step up and he's got to do something about that and take a stand. Either he's going to get rid of it or he's not. And then people should know, right, that he's been lying throughout the whole of the campaign.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Good to hear from you, Kim, today. We'll be right back. It's Talkback. Satinder calling from Calgary. Satinder.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
I don't think it's going to make much of a difference because Trudeau had the same cabinet as Carney with minor changes, so the people feeding him the information are still the same, and he's relying on their opinions and recommendations on what to do.
Okay.
So
okay.
The outcome's still going to be the same. Not much is going to be changed.
Okay, so he needs different people around him before you'll ever be convinced that a change for the better is on the way.
Exactly. He's got the same people feeding him the same stuff. So replacing Trudeau with Carney is not going to make much difference.
Okay. Nothing that he could do to prove you wrong? What could he do to prove you wrong?
He could listen to some of the stuff Danielle Smith is saying to, give the industry a little bit of a leeway and some sort of export for the product.
Right. So things like pipelines west, pipelines east, oil and gas emissions cap, clean electricity regulations, these sorts of things that are all on Danielle Smith's kind of to-do list, right?
Yeah. There's got to be a good balance of conventional energy and renewable. You can't just kill what the world wants right now and impose strict guidelines to go to net zero. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Overnight.
What about the energy minister? He has a new federal energy minister, this Hodgson guy. He came to Calgary, warmly welcomed, said good things.
I think that's a good thing. A little bit optimism, but we'll see what he delivers. He said he would get projects rolled out or approved in 2 years versus 5. I think 2 is still long. That's that's half of their 4-year term is going to be done, so we won't know exactly what benefits that's had, right?
Yep. Okay, fair enough. Satinder, thank you for your call and for sharing your opinion today. 1-833-668-2577. 2 lines available there. Why don't you jump on and join the discussion? Let's go. Who's up next here? Chris is up next on the line from Calgary. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you doing, Rob?
I'm good. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great. Beautiful day in Calgary here.
Yeah, beautiful day here too. Let's hope it sticks around for a while.
Right?
Yeah, we're in Ottawa, sir. Yes.
Oh, okay. Go slap some of those guys. It's a short walk.
Go slap him. Okay, should I slap the king too, sir? Well, he's around.
Yeah, sure. While you're at it, why not? Eh?
Okay.
Anyway,
okay.
On the topic, first of all,
yes.
I am, even though I'm a conservative and a Westerner and an Albertan, I'm willing to give Carney a chance. Having said that, I have very little hope that anything is going to actually change. You've mentioned in your opening that, the cabinet has changed. He's added some new members, but the majority of the cabinet, even though he's shuffled the deck a bit, are all old Trudeau conies, and as well, Carney himself was a senior backrooms Trudeau advisor, and his history is that he is really wedded to the net zero green agenda, and so I really don't hold up a lot of hope that there's going to be a lot of change. You've already mentioned some things that he could do, like dropping the admissions cap and whatnot, that would maybe make life better for people. But I'm telling you right now, it isn't going to happen. Just isn't going to happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. I will not be slapping anybody, by the way. I don't work like that. Let's listen. So this is, for our skeptical listeners in Calgary today, there was a big event there last week. I'm sure you've heard about it. Calgary Chamber of Commerce on Friday, and who is a special guest of honor? It's the new Minister of Energy in the Carney government, Tim Hodgson, big player, ex of Goldman Sachs, used to chair the big electricity utility in Ontario, Hydro One, advised Mark Carney at the Bank of Canada, sat on the chair of the board, as I said, of an oil sands company, no stranger to Calgary and the oil business. And here's a little bit of what he had to say.
In the new economy we are building, Canada will no longer be defined by delay. We will be defined by delivery. So what does that mean? It begins with a vision to build Canada into a conventional and clean energy and natural resources superpower. We have the resources. We have the people. We have the ideas. And we now have a government determined to lead and help unlock the potential of Canadian workers and businesses. We are taking major steps to back that vision with action. First, we will identify and fast-track projects of national interest. These are the projects that matter to our economy, our environment, and our sovereignty. No more 5-year reviews. Decisions will come in 2 years for all projects.
Okay. So again, I mean, that's a total change in tune, if you ask me, from the Trudeau government, from delay to delivery, from no more 5-year reviews down to 2 years, which is even a little longer than I think most people would like to see. I think the Conservatives were promising 6 months or something like that. But we'll be right back.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we started the day asking, because you have a new government in place in Ottawa now, far away Ottawa, what can it do to make your life better? And then we started asking, well, what doubts or questions do you have about the new government's ability to make your life better? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. Valerie is up next. Thanks for waiting, Valerie. You're on the air. Hi there. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine, Valerie. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I'm phoning from central Alberta, but I was born in Saskatchewan, raised in Alberta, so I want to sort of represent things that aren't so anti-Ottawa.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people out here that actually have a lot of hope and a lot of faith in this new government. And I liken it to a new coach taking over a team, and maybe that team didn't do so well. And it's now the new coach's responsibility to figure out what was going well and what wasn't. So I think we need to give them a bit of time to sort out this new government. What I've really been impressed by Carney is that he's not your traditional politician that's just in it for themselves. I really feel from a business perspective, he can do really great things for our country, especially with the international connections he already had, the new ones that he's making, sort of countering this U.S. tariff debacle with already setting up new trade agreements. And it's going to take time, right? Even the budget that they need to come up with, they're not going to rush through that, like Carney said. That's going to take some time for them to reflect and review what they. But what I really desire, because I'm not pro any political party, I'm fairly neutral. I really want to see our political parties working together, federally and provincially. This whole division thing is tearing our country apart. So I would love to see something that brings us more unified. And I'm hopeful, even the fact that Carney is from Edmonton, that we start getting seen a little bit more as part of Canada instead of a separate piece, which I think a lot of people felt under the Trudeau government, because he didn't hide his thoughts that he didn't care for Alberta at all. And again, there's a lot of great people here. There's a lot of very neutral people who I think we just need to have a leader who brings Canada back as a unified country.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, especially now in the current context, people are organizing a referendum and all of this kind of stuff, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's made to seem like it's a huge part of the province, but it's not. And just that perpetuation of that idea, I think, just angers the rest of the country against us again and sort of ostracizes us. So while there are issues, and I agree with a lot of the points that have been brought up, we need to unify, and we need to have a leader, and we need to have political parties that their focus is to take care of Canadians, not their own pockets, if that makes sense.
Sure enough. Thank you, Valerie. You've said it, and I appreciate your call today. To Kevin, up next, also in Alberta today. Hello, Kevin.
Can you hear me there? No.
Yeah, I kind of hear you, Kevin. Go ahead.
I'm going to both sides here because I'm driving. Hopefully, maybe you might be able to hear me better here.
Okay, well, you do that. You do that, Kevin. You sort out things on your end. Let's go to Tom in Cambridge. Kevin, don't hang up. Just sort yourself out. We'll come back to you. Tom in Cambridge.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Tom.
I hope that the new government can pull the country together. Like it seems like right now we have to make inroads for the West, but the biggest thing is, like I'm saying, none of these premiers over there they're looking after their own interests. They don't care about Canada. Like the main thing that's happening, people think that we can make a new agreement with the states. No, the guy wants to take over Canada, and the way it's going, he doesn't have to do it because we're splitting up the country on our own. So this is the biggest problem right now. The premiers there, they have their own personal interests.
Right.
And this is a huge problem.
Well, that's a premier's job, though. That's a premier's job, is to stand up for their own province's interests, isn't it?
Yes, but not to divide the country. Like right now, it's their own personal feelings rather than what the people need or want. So,
well, I don't know. When, for example, when Danielle Smith stands up and, thinks things could be better for the oil and gas sector of her province, that's not just an Alberta thing. I think she really believes that would be a good thing for Canada. Don't you think that would be a good thing for Canada?
Well, I think she's already made a deal with Trump underneath to split the country.
Well, so. I don't think so. I think that's ridiculous.
Well, it is.
All right. Okay, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Okay, bye-bye. Let's go back to Kevin, see if he's pulled over there.
Can you hear me here?
Yeah, I hear you much better now, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay, so all I really want to say is that we need. This is what we got now. We got Prime Minister Carney right now in power. We just need to make sure that we're giving him our full support as best as can. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to like the gentleman, but it means at this point in the game, we give him our full support because you could tell, even this is not from way back from Justin Trudeau's time, but you could tell he's already making some changes in the way he's approaching the matter here for us.
Okay.
Pipelines and all that stuff is great for us, and hopefully he listens and hopefully he sort of acts on these things. At the same time, we cannot expect them to do things right away, because if you're being run in 2 million directions at the same time, down south, which is the elephant in the room, and we have all these other things happening. Let him prioritize what has to work, and if he's true to his word, he will come through big for us here. So that's my take on this.
Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad we could fit you in there. Glad you got pulled over. Okay. Something else that happens from time to time when you do call in radio, you just roll with it. 1-833-668-2577. Right back to the phones. Greg is up next on the line. Hi, Greg. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Rob, I just got a couple of quick comments about what should the government do is eliminate this stranglehold they have on fossil fuels.
Okay.
And here's my reasoning.
Sure.
It's all about carbon and greenhouse gases.
Yes.
Is what I understand. But here's the thing that no one ever talks about is hydroelectricity. Methane is 80 times more powerful. And I Googled this, and the United Nations agrees. This is where I got my numbers. 80 times more powerful as a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide.
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
There's nothing clean about hydroelectricity. I mean, they flood tens of millions of acres of ancient forest and let it rot. And so methane is bubbling up for decades to come. And they're complaining about cow parts. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
I believe it's cow. I believe it's cow burps is what they're
ideologues.
more concerned about. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, hydroelectricity is viewed as clean, green, and renewable
it certainly
electricity.
Is not as far as greenhouse gases go, because it produces huge amounts of methane.
Okay, I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
Well,
I just don't know.
Buddy, look it up.
Right?
Look it up.
Okay.
Like all this rotting
I'd have to look it up.
under and these huge forests that they flood to build their dam to drive their turbines.
Right.
This methane bubbling up for decades to come.
Okay.
80 times more powerful.
I plead ignorance, so I know very little about it.
Their numbers.
Okay,
Rob.
Right. I believe you that like methane is a very potent greenhouse gas, and the government has moved to try and place limits on methane emissions in Canada. Certainly.
Yeah, let's put a cap on methane, because they want us to eat bugs. Because we don't want cows farting anymore.
Do they want us to eat bugs? Do they want us to eat bugs?
Anyway, veggie burgers.
Right. Well, veggie burgers are one thing. Bugs are another. I know they put some money into, what was it, David? Some kind of cricket manufacturing plant somewhere in Ontario or something. But that's about all I know about that. Okay, Greg. Thank you, Greg.
Check into the methane.
I will check into it. I certainly will. You've piqued my curiosity now. Robert is up next. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
Hi, Robert.
Yeah, I can just barely hear you on my end, but the
okay. Is that better?
The thing I wanted to comment on had to do with retirees and their RRSPs, and that the government has not changed the fact that we're forced to turn our RRSPs into RIFs by the year you turn 71.
Okay.
And they could do a lot to alleviate the problems of some seniors by raising that to 73 or 75. And they've talked about doing it, but they haven't done anything.
Okay. And how would that benefit seniors, in your opinion?
It would extend your money farther into the future. Should you be in a position to do so. And one other comment about the methane. That's a subject I do know a lot about. He is correct. Methane is way more powerful a greenhouse gas.
Well, this I understand. Yeah.
But methane has a different property that they don't talk about.
And what's that?
Over a period of about 12 years in the atmosphere, methane decays to CO2. So the methane that goes in is only there for about 12 years, but the CO2 it decays into will be there with the rest of the CO2, and that takes about 200 years for anything to happen to. So that sort of balances out that it may be heavier, but it's temporary.
Okay. All right. Again, I guess the caller's point was, when they're, building new dams and creating the conditions to build these new dams, that there's all kinds of rotting vegetation and whatnot, and that is releasing methane into the atmosphere. I don't know anything about that. But
that is absolutely true if the dams are flooding forest lands where there is a lot of vegetation to rot. Not all hydroelectric projects do that. A hydroelectric project that's built on a river system doesn't do that, and that's a lot of the hydroelectric.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Thank you. Again, not much that I can say about it because I have no expertise in this area whatsoever. And again, it's not really on the topic of the day. But thank you, nevertheless, for your call and your opinion. 1-833-668-2577. Still time to fit you in before the top of the hour on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Phyllis is up next today on Talkback. We're talking about the new government in Ottawa. Hopes, doubts. Hi, Phyllis.
How are you today?
I'm good, Phyllis. How are you?
Really good.
That's good.
I just wanted to say that the Carney government, they don't want to be known as the government of delays, but they're going to work for 3 weeks and then take a 3-month vacation. So, and we're supposed to be in a crisis, the worst crisis of our life, existential, because of the tariffs. Yes. And he's been the prime minister for a month and hasn't reached a deal yet. The other thing that I wanted to say was I wish Carney wouldn't say one thing to his French audience and one thing to his English audience. That's very disingenuous, and both things are not a good look as far as I'm concerned. So I don't have much hope.
Okay, Phyllis. All right. Thank you. Yeah, no, all, very valid points that you raise. I mean, what is Mark Carney promising to do? He's promising to make our lives more affordable. How can he do that? I'm just struck that we had this bread price fixing settlement today involving Loblaws and all the collusion that was happening in the bread aisle. It wasn't just sliced bread, by the way. It was the whole darn bread aisle. $500 million settlement that took 8 years. 8 years. The actual collusion lasted longer than that. But I mean, when it comes to something like the price of food, here's a government, I'm going to make your life more affordable. And yet one of the ideas that could help with the price of food is staring them right in the face, and that's supply management and agriculture. The whole system of marketing boards and quotas in dairy and poultry and eggs, and we pay more for food because of that system. It's not even in dispute that it means higher prices for Canadians. And yet, Prime Minister Carney, and in fact, all the politicians in Ottawa, not just the Liberal government, all the politicians in Ottawa say, we will defend supply management to the end. And in fact, they've all said it's non-negotiable in any trade negotiations with the United States, even though it's the United States' number one complaint about Canada is supply managed agriculture. He keeps talking about nation building projects that are in the national interest will be put on the fast track. But to Phyllis's point, what is he actually talking about? And does that really include a pipeline from northern Alberta to Atlantic Canada, or from northern Alberta to Kitimat, British Columbia? And can you even do projects like that and put them on the fast track if you still have legislation like Bill C-69 and Bill C-48, the so-called No Pipelines Bill, the so-called West Coast tanker ban? The Liberals haven't said they're doing away with those pieces of legislation. So when the new Prime Minister talks about a project that's in the national interest, does he mean a pipeline? Or does he mean high-speed rail from Quebec City to Toronto? He says he wants to double the housing capacity. That would be a big nation-building project, but what kind of homes? And who's going to build them? Who's going to train all the people to build all the homes? He says he wants to make communities safer. How's he going to do that when he's been opposed to any three strikes you're outlaw and doesn't sound like he's in favor of any kind of new laws around mandatory minimum sentences? He says he wants to get tough on things like car theft and home invasions and public disorder. But what's he going to do? As some callers have said today, when do the words turn into actions? I'm Rob Snow. Back tomorrow, brand new topic, more of your calls. The latest breaking news is coming up next on News Radio.